Thank you for everyone that's watching, and thank you to Marcus for joining me today. We're going to be discussing about our new digital signers, our version 2 of our BSL digital signers. Marcus is our Deaf Impact Officer at Signapse and works incredibly closely with the BSL community up and down the UK, and is also helping shape the user feedback and the impact that we're starting to get from our ASL models in America as well. So without kind of further ado, Marcus, I would really love to kind of chat with you around the user feedback and the community work you've been doing across a number of years since you've been at Synapse, and how this feedback is kind of, we've taken it, we've took it on board, and we've really helped shape the new BSL digital signers. So could you tell us a bit more about the user sessions that you do?
Right. Yeah. Thank you. I mean, it's hugely important to our research team who are working on the digital signers in terms of what they look like, in terms of the movements they
Mm.
portray, and also our translation team want to know if deaf people, can understand clearly what's produced, the translations
Yeah.
from our digital signers the first time they're used. I mean, our overall aim is to make sure we have good quality. So we need that feedback. It's essential to have that from
Mhm.
the community. And without that, the AI won't be able to improve. So I work closely with the deaf community throughout the UK, and that can be online, in person, and attending different events all over. And we welcome that feedback. In terms of how that feedback is given, we may
Mhm.
show a video of the AI doing a translation, which they can watch.
Mm.
And then what we do is we show them the English sentence that has been translated, so they can see the natural BSL first by the AI, take that on board, and then we show them the sentence to see their feedback in terms of, does it match the English sentence? And if it doesn't, why?
Yeah.
Do they clearly understand it? The yes and no's of that. And we draw out that feedback. And normally it becomes quite an in-depth conversation in terms of they may have understood one particular aspect, but not another part, and the reasons for those. And we
Mm.
make note of that. It can be down to a linguistic improvement. It could be down to the non-manual features. There's lots of different factors that we can look at and take notes about and gain
Mm.
feedback, invaluable feedback, which is then passed on to our research team. And also our LLM, our AI model. And that way, we can decide which ways to use better and which ways to train the AI modeling, which leads to overall improvement.
Yeah, and I think that that's such a key part of it, isn't it? Like, I think that's the part that a lot of people might naturally miss is we take such early models that we've built internally, and before they go out, they're launched, they're all kind of tested and reviewed within these user feedback sessions that you do. And I've been to quite a few of them with you, and it's always so it's exciting, it's thrilling, it's so engaging to see how people review it. And then they sometimes you'll see it and it clicks, and they're like, oh yeah, I understood that. And other times they're like, that makes no sense. And it's so important to see both sides of it, because then we can really go back to the team and give that feedback.
Yeah, our aim, which is really important, is to understand things the first time. I
Yeah.
think that's really important in terms of the clarity of the
Mm.
translation. Do people understand it when it's first put out? And if it doesn't, and we have to redo it, why do we need to redo it? We really need
Yeah.
to unpick why they don't get it first time. and then we can review it and what areas need to be improved on. I
Mm,
mean, one perfect example, the AI may sign a particular thing, but the eyebrows are raised.
yeah.
And just that small movement, it might mean that the signer looks surprised, but that isn't evident in the translation, that
Mm,
element of surprise. So that would be a misunderstanding and give a different meaning. So from the feedback, when they look at the sentence, they may say, oh, actually, um, the tone isn't reflected in how the AI is signing.
yeah.
And we may go, oh, really? Okay. And make a note of that. And that information can then be reviewed by our research team in terms of the facial expression that's presented, in terms of the
Mm,
hands and the execution of finger spelling. Is that clear? Can you see, do the hands need to be moved in terms of where they're placed? The lip pattern, the eyebrows, the eye, the actual shoulder movement in terms of
mm.
role shift, all those elements have to be reviewed. It's a lot to be reviewed and it's all ongoing.
Yeah, I think people might not know or understand as well when they see these models for the first time. People that aren't deaf or maybe companies when we review them, the amount of rigorous feedback that these have gone through, and sometimes very kind of brutal feedback where it's really wrong, and we've had to review it from these sessions, and that's so crucial, and that's what's really helped us get to this next stage of our version 2. I think one thing we really lovely to kind of touch on is we had a user feedback session in March, which was some people that had came to a feedback session about 2 years before, and they'd came back and they were looking at the digital science again, and it was so lovely to see the feedback that they had given us and we'd implemented, and helped kind of underline how crucial it is for people to come to these sessions and give the feedback and see it actually in person. It's so important, isn't it? And that was a really lovely day.
Yes. Yeah, I really enjoyed that day too. I really loved watching people's reactions, their
Yeah.
expressions when we actually showed them the comparison of the first model to the version 2. I was
Mm.
watching their faces and it was really interesting because it was like, just for a short moment, they were almost lost for words. They really were lost for words. It was like, oh, when you could see them watching it. And then they started to talk about it, and wow, I mean, their reaction was a huge change. It was a real step up from what they saw 2 years ago, and they kept mentioning repeatedly, like,
Mm.
wow, it's so different how it was 2 years ago. Wow, compared to now, and that's what we discussed. And then we started to unpick, on a deeper level, why the facial expression and the quality
Yeah.
of that, the graphics, the, you know, how they rendered the hands. We had a really long conversation. We could have gone on and on.
We definitely could have. I think it was a good couple of hours. We went over all the different feedback. And I think what's also people might not know as well is the sessions and feedback we do within these user feedbacks aren't just around the digital signers themselves, it's actually for some of the products that we have, like the website plugin. We made loads of changes to that about being able to pause, play, rewind, different colors that might be helpful for individuals, that those all came from our feedback sessions as well. And that wasn't just something that we just thought would be a nice feature to add. It was something that was actually requested, and we went through it all and we showed them very initial designs. And that's kind of feeds back into that whole model of we have an idea, we show the idea, we get the feedback, we make the changes before we launch or go through to anything. It's that continuous loop.
Yeah, yeah. The feedback just hugely influences how we move forward with the digital
Mm,
signers, the features before our launch. It has a huge impact on the improvements of our products, the usefulness of our products, how people will use it, how they understand the interpretation. Their point of view matters. Expressing how they feel, how this all makes them feel, and how it can become more user-friendly and easier.
Yeah.
Is the design good? Is it easy to access? Which elements are best? It's
Mm,
just that continual back and forth in terms of they question our product and we question, what they want. And I think it's really good to see
mm,
the evolution of things before it's launched. And it's thanks to that feedback. And because of that feedback, we're able to do the work in the background. And there is a lot of work that goes on in the background, but we're able to do it because of that.
well, I think it helps break the barrier, doesn't it, as well, between Synapse as a company and the end user. And it helps create that middle ground where we can kind of come together. And instead of it being so separate, is we build and you use. And it's not that. It's much more a collaborative piece that we can openly do together. And we can kind of in partnership build through the feedback and to come to a product that we're really proud of as people that work at Synapse and have done this. And the end user, which is the deaf community, can feel comfortable using, knowing that they've had an active role within it.
Yeah, I feel like they provide the foundation.
Yeah,
It's like a bridge. We have the technology. Still a brand new area. The products
yeah,
we have are new, and we carry it over the bridge to the end user. But like you say, there's that middle ground, and where does that come from? And it is these volunteers, these feedback given their real lived experience and feeding that in to our product. And they some people are brutal. They
yeah.
are completely honest with their feedback, and that's great. Um, but we have to take that on board. It's vital we have that feedback. It's brilliant. That is how we can make improvements. There's no no better feedback than honest feedback. That
Yeah.
improves things. We hope it improves things, but it's completely invaluable. That continual working together. And obviously, we'll always review how we do that going forward as often as we can
Mhm.
and as needed. User feedback is key.
It's completely key. I think kind of on that topic of the feedback of where people are comfortable with it, where do you kind of see where these new digital signers that we've kind of started to develop where they could start to be used? I think compared to a couple years ago when we started doing feedback, when I started coming along to them, the feedback sessions, it was very much around they're great in public spaces like transport or airports, things like that. But now, with the new kind of evolution of where they're getting to, where do you think they could start to be used? I think we had someone in one of the user feedback sessions saying around, you know, news and maybe not having it as the news translator, like interpreter on the screen, but they, on the websites, BBC News, for example, they only have an interpreter very limited times of the day. And there's plenty of other times where there's no translation into BSL. And that's the same for a lot of news outlets. Where do we kind of think with the improvements that we're making, the feedback that we're getting, this technology could be used in more comfortable environments?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, again, comparing to 2 years ago. Back
Mhm.
then, we had feedback more on the linguistic improvements to the system. But currently, most of the feedback is more based on just fine-tuning the product, how it looks, and it shows that the linguistic element is working, the understanding of
Yeah.
the AI is getting better. Again, 2 years ago, they were saying how useful this was for public transport, airports,
Mm,
train stations, and so on. But yeah, we didn't talk about the other potential uses of it. Beyond that, there's video translation and so on. And I feel in the last 2 years, we've achieved using this system in different areas. And
yeah.
like we say, we use that feedback. And I think people are starting to realize the actual possibilities have
Mm,
now opened up in terms of its use. We have the capacity to do a lot more with the AI. Like you just said about the news, there's websites, and 2 years ago, that would have been a challenge to put our AI on there to translate. It was nowhere
yeah.
near ready. Where now it seems doable. Any news website could use these plugins because we know websites, especially news outlets, the news
Yeah.
changes daily. And now we can see this could cope with news and the changes. And people have fed back and said, yeah, that's true. It could, there
Mm.
are other possibilities where there's live information that could use the AI. And we do keep that conversation going in terms of where we can deliver our product. 2 years, we've just come on so much.
Yeah, we really have. And I think, like we kind of mentioned with these feedback sessions, because I guess internally, we've not really spoken about could we use the like the website plugin, for example, on the news, or where we always kind of think where it could be limited to, where would it feel most comfortable to be used. But actually doing these feedback sessions, and we have active members from the deaf community saying to us, this could be really helpful on a news website. Where else could it be helpful? Where else would you want to see it? And that is the most valuable piece of feedback we can get as well, is where would you feel comfortable seeing this AI digital signer? We're not here to have it on doctors' surgeries or children's education. We're here to have it in spaces where it is most valuable. So where would you like to see it? So we can help get it into those spaces. And that's something which is crucial.
Yeah, another aspect of that, it makes people feel valued.
Yeah.
One person that we interviewed last year, I mean, their comment really hit home. They said, if I saw that, this outlet have sign language output, it means that
Mm,
they've thought about me. It means they've thought about my accessibility needs,
mm.
not just, and there's not just me out there. It makes people feel appreciated that people have made the effort. So similar to a lot of the feedback that we've had, if there are places where sign language content is there, like we said about the news websites, they would feel valued that there is some form of access there. And that's just come from our conversations, and it's hugely important, like myself as a deaf person and to Signapse as a company, that we're able to put ourselves in those spaces.
Completely. And I think it's always so lovely when you see like just randomly on like TikTok or Instagram that someone's filmed one of the sign-ups, digital signers somewhere on like the trains or something like that. And they've put it up and they're so pleased to see it. And you see like such positive comments, like makes you feel like you really are doing something that's making people's lives so much better.
Yeah, I read those comments too. And it's people's reactions. It's like, they say like, wow, this is amazing, how technology can help us. And some people thought, it's a real signer. And it's just interesting that the comments, negative and positive, what that people say about it, but it's about, we're in the 21st century, that we should have access.
Yeah, exactly. We really should. And it gives everyone autonomy to make the decisions that they need to make, to be able to go around their own lives and you know, feel that they have equal access as to their hearing counterparts. So I guess kind of on all the feedback and everything we've kind of discussed, if someone was really interested in joining one of the user feedback sessions, I guess could you give us kind of some information on how they can join, where they're held, how do we go about kind of selecting different community centres to get involved with?
Great. Thank you for asking that. I mean, really, there's a variety of ways people can
Mm,
be involved. And they can join us through online. We also have a presence on Instagram and Facebook. So on social media, you can post on there and say hi. Um, or you can send us private messages, or you can also look at our website. They can also email us, or they can contact me directly through my
yeah.
own email, which is on the website, or contact me through social media. They can say, hi, I'd like to speak to Marcus. And
Mm,
I'm sure, we people will make those introductions if it doesn't come directly to me, and we can talk by email or by video, FaceTime.
mhm.
Also, at different events, we have stalls, and a lot of people come up and ask for information, but you can ask about that to be part of the user group at those events. And once you're invited, we will end up having an in-person meeting. I mean, it tends to be in London,
Yeah,
normally, um, where we're based. You can come in, we'll have a tea, coffee, biscuits,
we do.
and we'll also have a big screen. Yeah, we'll have a big screen that we can show demonstrations on. I like tea and coffee too, so we will provide all of that. And basically, we just have an open discussion showing our products, and we're completely open in
Hmm.
terms of how you want to respond to it, how you feel watching it, and we start those topics. Normally, we have sessions that last about 3 hours, so that's kind of like a main one. I mean, meeting in person is lovely, getting that proper feedback. And the other idea behind that is you can see things before they're launched as well.
Yeah.
So you can see our AI products and get that insight into what we're looking to release. And it shows that they can be involved in our development. They guide us. The other thing that I can do is I can set up Zoom meetings online too. If you feel it's too hard coming down to London, then we can arrange something else, like a
Hmm.
Zoom meeting to get that feedback. And that could just be an hour's conversation. That's fine too. The other thing to do is keep an eye on our social media posts because we will have future opportunities to sign up to user groups and give your feedback in a variety of other ways. And that's how we've done it and will continue to do.
Yeah, and that's incredibly helpful. So thank you for letting people know how to kind of get involved. And I think whenever we do them as well, we encourage people to come back. So if you came to one of them, come back to another one so you can see how we've actioned the feedback that you've given us. And I thought it was really lovely when we did. So I hope we mentioned earlier when we did our feedback session in March with people that we'd done a feedback session with about 2 years ago. And then when we were at Deaf Expo on the Saturday, I actually saw one of the gentlemen who comes along to that session. And even from March to May, we'd made more improvements from the feedback he'd given. And he was so pleased and gave us even more again. So you really do become part of the culture. Like, people that join us like become part of that feedback culture, and that's something we really, really encourage. So if it's nice feedback, if it's feedback in the middle, or it's brutal and you think we should just redo like a whole section of it, we really, really value it.
Yes. It also shows that we listen.
Yeah.
Signapse are here to listen to your feedback and take that on board and consider it. And we're completely thankful for people being honest and open with their feedback, no matter what it is, whether it's positive or negative.
Mhm.
We need it. The research team use it, the linguistic team use it, and the translation team find it invaluable. It keeps us on track and it makes our product better for next time.
Mhm.
I mean, March to May, you know, people seeing it at Diff Expo, that's how fast you can see we are listening and taking that on board. And it is lovely to see when you get that feedback.
It is really lovely to see, and I think it's people feel really pleased as well. They feel like, we think they're incredibly important, but like you said, it shows that we're listening and they are incredibly important and they feel it as well.
Yeah, yeah. And we also love to see people come back again because if people give feedback one time, that's fine. That is great. We
Mhm.
appreciate all feedback. But what we like to see is how that feedback is put into action and for them to see it again, to see whether we've done it the right way. And then we can get their opinion to see whether they think, yeah, you've done one of what I thought was right, or and they feel satisfied in terms
Yeah,
of what they've said. And so we will always invite people to come again as much as they want to work with us to make sure they do feel involved. And it's like you say, sometimes the shock people, it's nice seeing that kind of surprise on people's face when they see, wow, it's really stepped up a notch now.
yeah,
The more feedback, the better.
exactly. And I think one thing I definitely learned as well when we went to Deaf Expo was when people see it for the first time, especially with the version 2 digital signers, and the look and feel of them does feel a lot more human like, especially their like facial features, appearance. They can feel a bit like, like you can feel a bit shocked when you first see it. So kind of coming along to the sessions as well kind of helps us break down those barriers as well for using AI and where it can be used. So it helps us build that more, like you said before, it's that bridge, isn't it? It's that connection.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. It also helps to understand how the AI works
Hmm.
because version 2 is an enhanced version and it is looking more and more realistic. And we've made a lot of improvements to achieve that, but we need to also take on board how people feel about that, how
Yeah,
people perceive, if they look and understand it, whether it is AI or not, and it's whether it is a real person or not. That's something we are having open conversations about how that makes people feel so we can understand the feeling out there and how they perceive it, from the individual's perspective. I think working inside Synapse, obviously we
mm,
see the development every day, and that's great to be able to see that. But people, the public, don't get to see that development, don't get to see that process. They just get
yeah,
to see, the initial product and then the improvements after. So it's good to see that. It's like when you see, your child, you see every day, so you don't notice them growing, and then somebody sees them, 2 years later. It's like, wow, they've shot up, and it's invaluable to have those conversations. It really is amazing.
yeah. I think that's such a great point because it's so true. We do see it every single day at Synapse. If there's any kind of small improvements that the research team have made, we see those kind of regularly. Especially when we started doing all the changes to the version 2, it was kind of shared a lot internally, like to get feedback, to see what people thought. And I guess, yeah, that's it. I've never thought about it kind of like that. We see it every day, that it becomes very normal and familiar. That I guess if I've only seen version 1 and you suddenly see version 2, it's quite the shock.
Yeah. Another thing just to add, when we started working on version 2, the original early early models, we showed it to a user group and they were like, oh no, this needs improving, especially around how the lips were moving, how the
Mm,
hands were moving. Um, we took on board all of that feedback. So from that point to the actual launch, of version 2, it's complete, the face is completely different. The quality of the movement of hands is completely different. The
Yeah.
starting point internally of version 2, um, volunteers have seen that, and then the end product where we got to the point of launching it took on board, and I think a lot of them were really surprised to see the improvements and how things had been taken on board from everything that they said. So it's good to see an interest in how they perceive it from the outset to the actual launch and the difference and improvements that we've been able to make.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting. I always think we should do like an evolution of our digital signers or something somewhere. Maybe we could do it as part of this, and we show the very very first ones all the way through to kind of show like be like a human, like a different thing of the evolution because it's changed so much. And I think it's something we're very proud of, and I think it's something
Yeah.
you should be very proud of as well. As much as obviously the research team have done all of the technical work, I think this is, and it's the translation team as well that have gone through and checked on QC'd all this new digital science as well with each of the glosses. They've kind of sat down and QC'd a lot of it, checked it's correct internally. But I think it's something, you should be incredibly proud of as well, because this feedback and this, going into these communities to gather this feedback, doing all of the events and everything as well, has helped shape this massive change that we're about to launch. And thank you so much, Marcus, for all of your work within the building the feedback within the communities.
And I appreciate it. And I just want to say a huge thank you to the volunteers as well. They
Yeah,
gave up their time to attend meetings and be involved, and that's just been amazing. So thanks to them. I think the understanding is there that their feedback heavily influences what we do, the linguistics and the other elements and how it looks. It's always going to influence it and always should. And I hope how we progressed and developed that does reflect what they've said. And it does, you can see that it's taken all that on board. Again, like I say, positive and negative feedback is all important.
yeah,
Our current products that you see from Synapse, the improvements to version 2, the plugin on the website, the improvements to that, it's all thanks to the volunteers and what they've said. They are so invaluable to us. We really appreciate it.
yeah. I completely and utterly agree. And I think, if you are watching this and you would like to volunteer and be part of our user sessions, please contact Marcus, because we would absolutely love to have you on board.
Yeah, the more the better. We will arrange regular sessions throughout the year. We also have an online survey that goes out along with some of the demonstrations. So if you have any questions, anytime you want to raise a comment or you're unsure of anything, please contact us. We're happy to have that conversation and answer any questions you have.
We really are. So thank you so much, Marcus, for your time and chatting with me to kind of go through everything from very beginning of going to these user sessions to where we've got to today with version 2 of our BSL Digital Signers. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. It's always such a pleasure and so interesting.
And thank you for having me here too, Zoe. It's been a pleasure.
No worries. Thank you.
Thank you.